India is definitely making a progress, and with that, the business environment is also now changing dynamically. Sociologically, society-oriented, Johnson & Johnson is still considered to be an enemy for the baby. The political and legal environment is definitely going to have a great impact in terms of the business. With a 1.35 billion population, you can probably sell every single product in this country because you have a market for it. Good morning and welcome to the second session of Business Environment Unit 2, where we are going to speak about the macro environment. Now, this is a very interesting topic. Why? Because after seeing the internal, that's the micro environment level, now when we are going to talk about the macro, we are going to go global altogether and try to understand what are the different factors that really matters in terms of the macro. Now, moving forward, an external environment where we have been talking about the outside influences, as I have told you in the previous session. This is where it starts coming in and tries to make the business in a disturbance mode altogether. It starts affecting the business in some way or the other, and they need to react. So there are two types of environment, as I've already told. One is the micro, the other one is the macro. So in this session in particular, we are going to talk about the macro environment. This is the most important part that we are going to talk about in this session. Now, moving forward, what is the macro environment comprising of? It comprises of the economic, social, technological, political and legal, and not to forget the demographic environment also. So you have quite a lot of factors to learn about: the economic, the social, the technological, the political and the demographical factors. So these are all the forces that are going to join together and going to create your macro environment. This is a very external factor. This is a crucial thing that we need to learn in terms of understanding our business environment. Now, moving forward, the economic environment. The first thing that I would like to talk about the economic environment is the nature and structure of economy. To understand this, we need to go back to economics and understand what the founder, the father of economics, Adam Smith, had told in his book, The Wealth of Nations. Every nation will script its own history in terms of its economic system. Why is this? Because when the nations started exploring themselves and growing all together, they created their own ideology, they created their own method of how they want to make a progress. Now, if you look into the American system, the capitalistic system, or when you look into the socialistic system of India, or probably a dictatorship kind of thing, or rather, let me say, a centrally planned economy of North Korea, all these countries do have their own economic progress, do have their own economic system and structure that runs in place. But what is very important for all of us here is that, are they progressing on the same level, same trend altogether? The answer is definitely no. Why? Because the economic environment includes the type of the economic system. So when you are talking about the environment, there is a system that is built inside the environment. You need to be aware about that system that is coming inside. The awareness is being created by the factor that yes, there are a lot of changes, there are a lot of factors, micro level factors and macro level factors that combine to make this particular environment. It might be about the foreign trade, the fiscal policy, the monetary policy, the labor, unemployment, so many other factors that start governing, that starts coming into the picture altogether. Each one of these factors have a feeling, have an effect on the environment. They don't allow the business to grow in the same manner that has been expected. There is an amount of impact. For a country like India, which suddenly moved itself from a licensing-based economy, from a tighter economy to that of an open economy that we are seeing today, it's an entire different ballgame. How did we do that? How did we overcome it? It's a very big story. Let's not get back into the Indian economic history right now. But then, when you look into the shift of the economic paradigm that has happened over the last 20, 30 years, that has been possible because there has been the forces that have been governing on this, and the business structure has also been adapting well to the economic system. So in the long run, what you would be able to see is that the opportunities that are being presented by the government as well as the threats that are being coming into picture. So if the economy is going under a recession, or the economy is going under a boom, or the economy is trying to recover, it will have an impact on your business. The business is not going to stand still there. The business is going to react as per the economy. So when we talk about the recovery of economy in the current context today with regards to that of the pandemic factors, India is definitely making a progress, and with that, the business environment is also now changing dynamically. Before the impact of the COVID, there were certain businesses which were making a rapid stride and growth because the economy at that point of time was supporting it, was growing with that. Now, after the COVID-19 issue altogether, there are newer economies, newer industries that have been started emerging, and they are making a rapid stride. So what is happening today in the system is that you are able to see that the economic forces are creating a severe impact on a business firm. They are making you to understand that though you might be good, though you might be potentially strong, you know everything about your operations, about your activities, and you might be existing in this world for the last 5 or 10 decades. But then as the economic environment starts changing, even you will start feeling the pressure, even you will start feeling the heat coming across you. So what you need to do here is that adapt yourself to that economic force. So every business needs to understand the policies, the budget, the norms, the regulations that are being predicted by the environment, that are being predicted by the system altogether. And that's how the business will start progressing. That's how the business will exactly start having an impact altogether. Today, when we are talking about the healthcare, or when we are talking about the automobile industry or the banking industry in totality, all these sectors have been able to adapt themselves so quickly to the environment, to the economic system, that today they have understood that going forward, there is going to be a different structure, different work pattern that is going to exist, a different ideology that is going to exist. So we need to start bringing in better technology that will adapt for tomorrow. Similarly, for the manufacturing sector, after a gap of 6 months, when they are opening back, they have now started adopting better methodologies because the economy starts demanding it. Now they have to push the demand and they have to bring it back to the same level. So the economic system of every single country will decide the nature of business. Now, moving forward, we also need to understand the social and cultural environment. Now, the members of the society wield an important influence over the business firm. People these days do not accept the activities of firm without asking them a question. Now, that is quite interesting for me. Why? Because today I have started a company, and I started the company with my vision, my ideology, my thought process. I believe this is the right way of doing business. This is what I wanted to do in the society. I am not going to question anybody, and I don't want anybody to question me in my business activities. This thought was probably true 5 or 10 or 20 years back. But today, the society is not just going to accept you for whatever you are doing. The society is going to come back and ask you a question. How are you doing it? Why are you doing it? And what are you doing with this? So everywhere, the society and cultural values are something that is going to decide the business environment to a great amount, to a great impact as far as possible. Now, for example, if I am involving myself in manufacturing a particular drug, when I talk about a drug in terms of healthcare, in terms of a medicine, or in terms of an antibiotic altogether. And unfortunately, that particular drug is going to have a reverse effect, a negative effect on the society. I'm not going to be spared. People are not going to look at me in the same way. Now, let me just share you a live example here. Johnson & Johnson is probably one of the companies that was always admired by the HR, the human resources world, as the most admirable company to work with. And not to forget, they had won 6 times the Best Employer Award in the globe. Now, who is going to deny this company, which is always delighted by the smile of a baby? But unfortunately, what has happened in Johnson & Johnson is that they are also the same company which faces the maximum amount of legal suits that are being filed across them for the usage of their baby powder, which is bound to create a skin cancer on the babies. Now, that is quite weird. That's quite surprising here. But that's a fact. You need to accept it, because sociologically, society-oriented, Johnson & Johnson is still considered to be an enemy for the baby. Now look at that. This is the company which was known for its baby products. This is the company which always believed that my customer cannot speak, my real customer, my actual customer cannot speak, my actual customer can only give sign language, and the most beautiful sign language in the world that Johnson & Johnson ever gave to this world was the language of smile. Because their babies can only smile, they can only react through their crying or through their smile. And that's what Johnson & Johnson always said, every smile counts for me. But today, it is not every smile. It is the cry of the mothers. It's the cry of the society that is coming against them. So that is where the sociological and cultural environment. Now let's go for the example of Pepsi and Coca-Cola. And these two companies have been known in this world for selling their sugar water business, what I call it as beverages altogether. But moment you open up a Pepsi bottle or a Coke bottle and try to take it home back, people are not going to look at you in a good manner. People think that Pepsi and Coke is definitely not good for your teeth and for your health. On the other side, Coke is supposed to be the most respected brand, the most valuable brand that you can ever talk about on this globe. But why is that? The most respected brand, the most valuable brand is still considered to be an enemy for your health. Why does the society look at you as a caffeine maker who is trying to destroy the health of the people? Though there are millions of followers, though there are millions of people who drink Coke across this globe, but still it is always considered to be an enemy. It's always considered to be an alien towards the health and structure. Now, these are things which you will be surprised. Why? Because even though certain companies have a great brand value, a great thought process altogether, but they are not being respected by the system and by the society, ITC. Now, I don't want to just go bragging about the company just because they are one of the India's oldest brand, 100-year-old brand. But then the fact is that moment when you talk about ITC, the first thing that populates on the top of your mind is the cigarettes. Now, the one side, when ITC has been doing a great job like the e-Chowpal, trying to bring in difference in the life of the farmers, trying to enlighten 14,000 families across India, trying to bring in those classmate products which can make hundreds and thousands of children go to school. The other side, you are talking about a business called as smoking, selling of cigarettes. Now, how many people will definitely appreciate smoking? Definitely not. Not any of you will go ahead and start appreciating smoking and say that's the best habit that you can ever develop in life. Every single society, every single parent, every single person would say that smoking is definitely injurious and harmful to health. But then you have to continue the business of doing cigarette. Now, that's surprising. That's where societally you are challenged. You are against the environment. The culture does not promote it at all. But then that's what, if you start understanding in the business environment context, there are many more examples like this, which are trying to create something that is against the image, that's against the belief of the society. So that becomes quite challenging, quite interesting for each one of us to go back, question ourselves that why people still do pursue these products. Why do the image of this company, in spite of being against the society, continues to be on the top? Continues to be one of the best. Now, moving forward, I would like to talk about the political and the legal environment that we have been looking into. Now, the political and the legal environment is something when we are closely relating ourselves to government and the influence that is being, affected on in terms of the business policy. Now, for example, when we talk about our great Prime Minister, the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, he adopted a democratic socialism for its goal. Now, before we start getting into history and start talking about our prime ministers and presidents, what we need to understand is the political situation of a country. Now, political situation is not just about the parties and elections that we are talking about. We are talking about a system, we are talking about a government, we are talking about an institution on the whole, which is going to make a dynamic difference to the business environment altogether. That is not just going to limit itself with one particular value or one particular system. That is going to affect the entire country, and it is going to make a whole lot of difference here. So suppose, let's say that there is going to be a change in the government tomorrow. Each one of us are again going to go back and cast our vote. What is going to happen? Is the business going to change? Suddenly, will ICICI Bank stop banking and become something else? Or will Kotak Mahindra Bank stop its banking and start moving into something else? Definitely not. But then, the banking policy will have an impact, because when the new government gets elected, what is the credit policy they are going to follow? What is the monetary policy that's going to be advised? What's the fiscal policy they are going to bring in? So every single government is going to talk about some factor which is going to have an impact on your business environment. You are not going to stand still watching that elections results coming across your TV screen. You are going to recalculate the entire strategy, the entire gamut of operations. So that is where the impact of political and legal matter comes into picture. When the Indian government came up saying that all of a sudden that, we are going to ban all the Chinese apps on your mobile phones, all the Chinese goods from entering into India, what was really affecting is not just the word called as patriotism. Of course, salute to our country, salute to all the great leaders who have done the effort in terms of making our nation great. But the other side, the impact that was happening on the business because of a sudden knee-jerk reaction of cancelling all the particular apps, all the particular factors, the business is definitely taking by surprise. Why? Because every political decision and every legal decision that is being taken up by a government, by a system, will have a far-reaching impact altogether. So in order to India's economic development to come up, in order to have a suitable industrial policy, a growth factor, a political framework has to come into picture. A legal framework has to be stabilized altogether. Now, we remember the years when in 2002, when the FDI was allowed by the government in terms of the insurance sector, every single company wanted to join the bandwagon of starting up their own insurance because they believed that this is going to be the sunrise sector in the next 10 years, and that was not false. That was 100% true. After LIC, today, when you go back to the insurance sector, probably we have 34 large players in the sector with all foreign collaboration and lot amount of investment coming in. Today, probably insurance is one sector that's wide open with a great amount of investment coming in. Similarly, when the aviation sector got opened up in India, we were not surprised. Way back in 1996, starting up with the Jet Airways, followed by the East West Airlines, Damania Airways, so many people coming into the picture, and Kingfisher coming up in a big way, Indigo, or we are going to talk about Go Air or Paramount Airways. All these people were on the private sector who started believing that aviation is going to be probably the biggest bet that you can take up in the business, and everybody did make money in the last 20 years. Forget the pandemic now coming into picture and Jet Airways going into a loss. But until then, it was a success story. Now, why that was possible is because of the political and legal framework that is coming into every single business sector. When the government announces that, yes, we are going to go on a particular mode, we are going to allow certain changes going to come into the situation, everybody is interested. Everybody wants to go forward and make the best use of the opportunity. And that is why these things become entirely interesting. Today, when you look into the government bringing in policies in terms of healthcare, in terms of education, especially I would like to talk about the privatization for a moment here. When the government first announced this year that the railways is going to get privatized, followed by BPCL, Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, or Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited, then when we are going to talk about companies like BHEL coming into picture, everybody is completely taken up by that excitement and surprise. Why? Because moment insurance companies or manufacturing companies or government services are going to get privatized, the option of taking up that business and running it forward is definitely going to be a big challenge. One side, it is a very huge opportunity to be talked about, but the other side, when the political climate is changing in India and favoring the privatization altogether, there is going to be a huge challenge in terms of the job security, in terms of the perceptions coming up from the employee unions and from the different walks of life. So the political and legal environment is definitely going to have a great impact in terms of the business. Moving forward, we are going to talk about the technological environment. The nature of technology that is used in production for the goods and for services really matters a lot when we are going to talk about the business firm. Now, what is that's going to affect in terms of technology? If I just go forward and start explaining you about this laptops and mobiles that has been projected here. Let us go back to a time when we used to stand in the queue for getting a railway tickets. I'm not just talking about some ages back, but I'm just talking about 15, 20 years back. When you used to go there and stand in the railway queue hoping that, yes, you are going to get the ticket in next 1 hour, 2 hours, we never mind about it. But what we were interested is taking a pen, filling up the form, the application form for the railway ticket, and stand in the queue or sit in the queue for hours together, hoping that yes, today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, definitely yes, we are going to get the ticket, reserve our ticket, and then we are going to go forward. Fantastic. That was the amount of excitement that we had in terms of booking up that railway ticket. But moving forward, 2015 onwards, we never thought about that railway queue. That was gone. It was vanished in the thin air altogether because of an application called as IRCTC. Now that is available, the entire railway system. You're talking about that 11,000 trains that are running across the country. You're talking about the millions of passengers who can book the ticket at just on the tap of a button on your mobile phone. IRCTC brought a revolution to the railways altogether, thanks to the technology, thanks to the company that invented that apps and put it across on your mobile phone. No more you're going to see that long queues. All you're going to see is one nice mobile phone in your hand. Put in the details, tap it and just say submit button, then it goes to your bank payment system. Your ticket is booked and it's right available on your mobile phone. So what has technology done to the business? Convenience, flexibility, options. We talk about so many factors, but technology is not going to rest. It is not going to be stable. It is constantly going to change. Similarly, when we talk about Big Basket, when we talk about Amazon, when we talk about Flipkart, or we are going to talk about JioMart, or when we are going to talk about the Grofers, all these applications have really changed the dynamics of business altogether. There was a time when customer felt that you need to go to the shop, stand there for some time, go through the aisles of the shop, spend about an hour to stand again in the billing counter, get your things done. But today that has not been seen at all. Things have changed. With one mobile phone in your hand, all these things become at the speed of light. So what has been the power of technology on business? Something unimaginable, something really magical that has happened altogether. Now every single thing, including medicines, one of the most important and confidential part of our life, has also become transformed. It's available to you at the tap of your mobile phone. What is going on now is that technology is not only transforming the business, but it is defining the rules of the business in a different manner altogether. No more you have to go forward, wait for something to happen. Rather, you are making the customer as proactive as possible. Every single launch of a product, every single launch of a new item is going to be already known. So what you are making the customer is information aware rather than just product aware. Nobody is now going to just talk about a product, but people are more interested in talking about the information of the product. Now you can go and talk about an iPhone 12 that has been launched to a small kid because he also knows it. He also has a YouTube. He probably knows what is happening altogether. So the impact of technology on every single business environment is today going to be counted. The more the country starts investing time and money in terms of building up your technology, in terms of adapting to all the best methods and methodologies available, automatically the country is going to go up, and that is going to have a huge positive effect in terms of your technology, in terms of your business environment altogether. Now, moving forward, the demography. With a country like India, you cannot further ask for diversity, you cannot further ask for choice altogether, because that is going to talk about the size of a people which is totally unimaginable for a lot of countries. And there was a time when people used to ask this question, what is the population of India? Today, we don't ask that question, what is the population? Rather, we ask, what is the diversity of India? Why? Because with the 1.35 billion people, now you are looking at a market which is enormously high. It's a huge market to be talked about. With a 1.35 billion population, you can probably sell every single product in this country because you have a market for it. You have a market where people buy still a 20 rupees chocolate, a 10 rupees chocolate, a 5 rupees chocolate, and even a 500 rupees chocolate. That is the diversity, that is the size, that is the variations that you can see in a market like India. What is this demography all about? Is it all about people? Is it all about the functionality? Is it all about the, the size, the age, and all those factors? I would also say that there are factors like education level, the labor force, the earning capacity, the income capacity, the factors of understanding the business, the expectation levels, and so many factors. But then when we talk about the demography, it includes the size and growth of population, the age, the life expectancy, and so many other factors. But all these things will have an impact on the business because your business is governed by the people whom you see here. These people decide your business. So based on the nature and size of your population, you are going to run your business. You are not going to run your business in isolation. So your business environment will consist of all these people who are going to make a drastic difference altogether. So without understanding the demographics, you will not be able to run a business environment. So when you talk about the size of population of India or China, that is the amount of diversity, that is the amount of challenge that you are going to see in terms of introducing a product and taking it forward. With this, I come to the conclusion of this particular session. I hope and believe that the session was highly informative, useful, and productive in nature. In the next session, we will be seeing about some of the dynamic factors of business environment. Until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me on this wonderful session.